And good evening, everybody. I hope that your Monday went well. We're going to be going live in Real Estate After Dark in just a moment. So, tonight, we don't necessarily have a guest. However, if somebody would like to come on stream or comment or really just kind of dive into some of the topic of conversation tonight, I welcome you to come in. Just send me a DM and I'll get you the link to bring you on as a guest if that's something that you'd like to do. Otherwise, as always, feel free to drop a comment or questions in the chat. I'm trying to monitor the different streams that I'm on. So right now I've got Instagram going, got LinkedIn, got YouTube, Facebook. Obviously, always on Facebook. Tonight we're going to talk about a pretty sensitive topic with regard to real estate investing, and especially with investors. And that's going to come down to paying for these money or for these loans that you're going for. So if you want to use private money, hard money, or hell, just understand bank financing a little bit better, we're going to go into that a little bit tonight. I'm going to actually bring together a few different scenarios that we're going to talk about and just kind of fumble through. So as I'm finishing this up, I'll actually be going and sharing my screen here in a moment and kind of going through the details. I'm going to find a calculator, run that through. Mainly at this point, it's just kind of automatic for me. I'll go through and I'll do my calculations, not necessarily in a calculator outside of the one that I use personally. So we're just going to go through and really run some numbers and show you that maybe you're looking at debt and how to use that debt maybe a little bit backwards. Now, again, let me just go ahead and say this. This is for entertainment purposes. This is not financial advice nor legal counsel. I'm not qualified to give either. So if you do have a legal, tax, or well, just any question outside of real estate, you need to go ahead and consult the appropriate professional for that. Let me just go ahead and get a couple things here. There we go. So again, drop your comments in the chat if you have any. But real quick, let me see if I can go ahead and finish this part out. And then I'll go into sharing my screen and we'll start to run a couple different numbers here. There we go. All right. So now that I've got that ready, before we really dive off into what the points, the fees, and everything are, let's talk a little bit about private money and what that really entails. So a lot of the times, people will contact me thinking that private money is really for people that can't afford or can't qualify for a bank loan. It's not always the case. Sometimes banks can take 30, 45 days to go through their due diligence, through their underwriting process, and really kind of get there to say, yes, we'll do the loan or no, we won't do the loan. Sometimes it's just down to speed and how fast and how efficient can you be at getting me the money that I need. That's why people will often go to a private money lender, hard money lender when they have an 800 credit score, 700 credit score. It's about the access to the money, the ease in which you're able to obtain it. Now, a couple things you're going to hear me talk about tonight. You're going to hear APR. Okay, that's your annual percentage rate. All right. Now, APR, you're going to hear that a lot whenever you're dealing with anything with financing from cars to furniture to electronics to houses. All right. And with that, you just have to understand that over the course of the year, that's the total amount that you're going to pay based on that annual percentage rate. Well, there's another thing called points. A point is quite simply just a percentage point of the amount that we're discussing. So, for example, if I say that we are going to loan you $100,000 at 10% APR and 1 point, that means that the annual percentage rate will be 10%, and you will be charged 1 percentage point as an origination, as the underwriting, as a number of these fees. Now, again, what I'm going to be discussing is, well, it's actually into my business, how we do things, how we underwrite, how we process, and how we mitigate the risk so that my clients, not only the borrowers, but the people that loan money or put money into the fund with me to lend out, how we make sure that we're in a good position throughout all stages of the deal. All right, let me go ahead and get this screen shared. And again, if you do want to go through some of this, just let me know. Hey, Makai, how are you doing? Let's see. So we're going to present. All right. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is drop my video. You don't need me. You just want to see the presentation, as you should. So I'm going to try to bring the screen up a little bit, make it make sense. There we go. All right. So this is going to be the first property that we're going to discuss. And we're going to do a few of them just so you can see where it calls out, where it doesn't. The purchase price on this, or the ARV, is going to be your after repair value. What is that property going to be worth once we have fixed it up and it is ready to flip? Well, in this case, the ARV is going to be worth $180,000. So if we follow the classic formula of Mayo, which means maximum allowable offer, then we're going to be doing something to the extent of 70% of the ARV. All right. Now, in a down market or a buyer's market, it's not uncommon to trim that back to about 65% of the after repair value. A lot of that's done so that you are really just hedging and protecting your profit as much as possible. Because let's be honest, we don't do this out of being or out of wanting a hobby. We do this quite simply because, well, we want to make money at it, right? And whether that is to just bolster your income if you want to flip a house a year and make an extra $40,000, or if you're wanting to, do this full time and just go full bore like Catherine and I did. It's right there, but you have to stick to the numbers. If at any point throughout the deal, as a buyer, don't let your passion outweigh your common sense. You have to be willing to walk away from the deal if it doesn't make sense financially. Now, let me see if I can't do this and really change these screens a little bit. Because sometimes as I go to give you some of this information, I want you to see in my eyes that I'm serious about this. Don't mess around. All right. Do not treat this as a hobby. We want to make sure that you're out here and if you're doing this, and especially if you're borrowing money from me, I want you to be profitable. Matter of fact, I want you to go out here. I want you to be so profitable that you turn around and you do another one and another one and another one and another one. And now I've got to go over here and find more capital because you're so damn good at what you do that now I need to go bring in more money from other people so that I can loan it out to you. Right. That's the goal. I want the people that I work with to be so insanely successful that they come back to me and they just know this is how we do business. This is how we build things up. Now, let's get back to the example at hand. Let's say that this is 123 Main Street. And you go and you look at 123 Main Street. It's a nice 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. Let's say it's 1,800 square feet. You've got an ARV of 180. Given today's climate with interest rates, with where the buyers are, with where the market stands in the cycle that we're in. Well, 70% of that ARV is going to come down to $126,000. So even if that property needed no work whatsoever, none, your offer, the most you can allow is $126,000. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit because a lot of people think, well, if I can just take that property and relist it immediately, well, why would I have to offer so little? Well, it's because, again, we want you to be profitable. All right. This is not a hobby for you, or at least not if you're working with me. You're in it to make money. So your gross profit on this is going to be $54,000. You've got a $90,000 rehab or remodel, right? In this case, which means that your final offer that you could offer, because we're going to go 70% of that, which is 126 minus the repairs, or there's your gross profit minus the repairs. What is your final offer? So wait, let me change that. That's not the final offer. See, this is what I get for trying to put it all together in a rush. So 126 minus 90. So that's 36,000. That is the final offer that you can make. And your rehab final offer, you're looking at 126. You're going to have a down payment 25.2. Let me just double check my math right quick on this. 25.2 it is. All right. $100. All right, had to fix that. So thank you for bearing with me. Again, any questions, type it out in the chat. Let's go ahead and hammer this out. So we're going to run down through this. Now, gross profit breakdown, let's just say on a property like this, your utilities, your utilities are going to be electric, water, natural gas, lawn maintenance, just any of those things to keep the property up over the course of the hold period, which typically we're going to aim for 6 months, but you might do a year, something like that. What do those utilities usually cost out at? Let's say in the market for this example, I'm just going to make an arbitrary number of say $425 a month. Property taxes going to be just say $126 a month. Yeah, because we're buying at that low, so that sounds about right. Property insurance, builder's risk policy on this, you're probably looking at $130 a month. And then the cost of money. So this is where we really try to calculate how much are we going to spend. Well, I can tell you right now that at 1,008 a month, that is just my APR. That's my interest only payment. We'll mess with closing costs here in the next one. So right now, let's just say that you're at $1,689 a month. So if you go $1,689 a month, let's just see what that's going to look like for a 6-month hold for you. That's $10,134. And if you did that for a year, it'd be $20,268. Now, I'm doing this so that we can make sure that you've got a very clear understanding of what you're looking at whenever you go to analyze a deal. If you do this, keep in mind the same thing as marksmanship or shooting, right? If you aim small, you miss small. So if you can be as dialed in as possible on these numbers, it's harder for you to mess up. All right. It gives you more cushion to mess up, to make those mistakes and still rebound and make a profit. After all, what have I said numerous times tonight? We're not doing this for a hobby. Mainly because I want you to understand that even as a first timer, you go out here and you find a flip and you make $30,000. Well, if you make $100,000 a year at your other job, what did you just do by flipping one house a year, averaging a net $30,000 profit? Right. You just gave yourself a 30% pay raise. You understand that at your current job, it could take you upwards of 10 years to achieve that. That's at 3% a year. So what would you rather do? Would you rather just wait for them to catch you in the next 10 years and get that 30% increase? Or would you like to create this yourself? And that's one of the things that I really want you to understand. You don't have to be full bore, just all in on real estate like my wife and I are. That that's not for everybody. It's not the easiest road, and a lot of people, well, quite frankly, can't handle the ups and downs. But what they can do is they can find a way to get one property a year, to flip one house a year. And I'm telling you, that's powerful in itself. Because if you can increase your household income by 30% and making 100,000 a year and making an extra 30, wow. And believe it or not, the less that you make, the more powerful one flip a year is for you. Because let's say that you're making $30,000 a year and you flip one house and you make that net profit of $30,000. Well, how much did you just pay yourself, or how much did you just increase your pay? By 30,000, right? So that's 100% pay increase, just one flip a year. Now, this is where it's really going to mess with you. Let's say if you do two flips a year and you can maintain your cost of living, would two flips a year change your life to where you no longer had to punch the clock, to where now you could pay for your own health care, your own benefits, and then you turn around and get to start living life on your own terms? It's kind of powerful. So, all that to say, whenever you keep this in mind, ask yourself, is the cost of money too expensive? Or are you just not thinking creatively and long term enough about this? All right, let's continue. So, as we go through, there's our total cost. Now, remember, what did we say earlier? Our gross profit. We want to make sure that there's a little bit in there. So, that 54,000 is your gross profit. Now, we're going to scroll down a little bit. It gets a little messy. I'm not the most organized on this. You're going to get to see a little bit of how my ADHD works. So hold on. It's going to be a fun ride. So gross profit. So whenever I put miscellaneous, I'm talking these are things that might go missed during the inspection or might come up as the buyer's doing their inspection or anything like that. Closing costs in the market that I'm using right here, it's not uncommon for buyers to ask for some closing costs. So we factor that in to our numbers. Because again, I want you to understand that we make our money when we buy the property and we realize the money, like we get it when we sell. All right. So if we overpay by any means, that's where we lose. And well, I don't want you to be in the business of losing. I want you to be in the business of winning. So let's go through this a little bit more. So here's your gross profit. Here's your realtor fees. This is assuming that you would be paying 6%. And that's 3% to your listing agent, 3% to a buyer's agent. Yes, before we go into it, I'm not going to talk about all that. Do I have to pay for a buyer's agent, et cetera, et cetera? I can tell you this. I've seen people that do, and I've seen people that don't. And I've seen people be more successful than people that don't. So even now, I use that. That's just another line item of the cost of doing business for the flip for me. Mainly because I want to be abundant with my clients and with the people that bring me buyers. So I'm going to make sure that my realtors get compensated regardless of what side of the table that we're going to be on. There's your closing costs, there's your miscellaneous. Well, and then let's talk about this. Let's say that you were able to complete this in 6 months. Now, this is where it gets a little bit crucial to pay attention to these numbers because the devil's in the details. You have to make sure that you're there. Okay, costs of money. Oh, not 10 million there. Hold up, boss. All right. So if we take this, we subtract all of this, it leaves us with this amount, 22,566. If you were able to make that amount of money in 6 months. Now, again, that's understanding the market, the speed of the market. Where are your buyers? Are you in the sweet spots where you're getting the majority of those buyers? Let's go back and look at this. You came out and you spent 25 for your down payments. There's your points. There's your fees. All right. So let's just say that 25, that's 30,000, 31,240 is where you're at. So you spent 31,240. That is the money that you physically had to go over here and beg, borrow, steal from family, friends, however, to make that down payment. And then that's your fees and everything else. We've already got your cost of money, your monthly interest expense up here. So now we just have to factor in or calculate what is the cash on cash return here. All right. So, and just a quick little math lesson for you. What you do is you take this number, divide it by this number, and that gives you your cash on cash return, your percentage, which is actually going to be a 72% return on money. All right. It's well, let me just go ahead and change this. Not 7,200%. There we go. All right. Now we're looking at a 72% return on money in 6 months. All right. Now, what if you did this, close this deal out, and you had another deal working for you? Similar, let's just say you ripped off and duplicated. It's the same thing. Let's just say that you found a clone deal. All right. Now, how much money did you make over the course of a year? So that's 1.4 times. That's 144% return on your money over the course of a year. I don't know about you, but the crazy thing that I love about this is that if I'm able to make that kind of money, and at the end of the day, I've got a tangible asset in my hands, and I'm not here to bag on crypto or talk bad about it. There's some people out there making a lot of money with it, and good luck to you. At the end of the day, if that coin value drops to nothing, or if that stock in your portfolio drops to nothing, you have nothing. Like Gene Wilder and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, right? You lose. Good day, sir. Here, there's still pivots, right? Let's say that you get caught in the market. Market shifts. It's not going quite the way that you want it to go. There's still a way to make some money. You see, if you do this right, you can still turn around and refinance me out of the deal, right? You can get long-term financing put in place. And that's going to allow you to hopefully cash flow, take appreciation into the market, grow, and then sell it when the market cycle is a little bit better. See, these are all options that you get when you buy it at the right price. Even if you were to take this thing to go for a full year, right? Remember, it goes from 10.1 to 20 or to 20,268. That's still $12,000, right? Now, again, if you only make $12,000 on a flip, we got to talk. There's a few things that we've got to brush up on and get ready for the next deal. But 12,432, if we divide that again by the 31,240 that you're out, you've made 4% return on your money. Wait, no, you've made 40% return on your money. All right, you've got to bear with me. So that 40% return on your money, even if it took a year, even if you had to pay twice as much in that holding costs for that money, it's going to come down to a 40% return. How is that possible? Quite simply, it comes down to leverage. The leverage that you're applying, right? Because if you were going in and you were spending all of this money yourself, if we go up here and we say, all right, well, great, we're going to buy it, we're going to make the offer, so we're going to spend $126,000. Well, let's run this number again. So if we're in it for 126 and you made 12,432, and you completely just, like I said, screwed it up, missed everything, your contractor took forever, et cetera, et cetera, you're still making almost 10% return with spending $20,000 in holding costs. Ain't it crazy? The fact that you can still go over here and do this, but you're only making, that 10%. Gee, don't you hate only making 10% on your money? And that's if you spent that much money in the holding costs. But if we go 10, 1, 3, 4, so 10, 1, 3, 4, yeah. Now you're at 22,566. Did I do that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's almost 18% return, right? If you're able to do this successfully and you use all of your own money, then you'll get a 17% return on your money. But again, by risking less money, by putting my money to work for you, you're able to go out there and apply that leverage where now you're only really bringing, where was it at? I'm losing my spot here. So you're only bringing about 32,000, right? Oh, right here. So 31,240. That's what you're doing now, as opposed to the 126. So let me further exaggerate this example. So if we go 126 divided by 32, you could actually take on right at 4 projects at the same time with that same $126,000 if you had it. But a lot of people, they don't have that. That's why they're looking for ways to apply that leverage and use the financing. So while a lot of people they get fixed with, oh my God, you're charging these points, you're charging this amount. Yeah, yeah, because well, we do this on the lending side, not as a hobby. We do this as a business as well. And one of the things that a lot of people fail to realize, and really it would serve a lot of people better in their lives to understand that whenever you stop stressing over somebody else's pocket and focus on yours and the benefits of that, you'll watch your money grow. You can't sit over here and expect your pockets to overflow and be full while everybody else around you is empty. So don't be afraid to let your lender make the money. And whether that's me or, well, anybody else, whoever you use. If you want to argue about that, well, then understand that sometimes that comes with more stipulations. You see, I do some loans at lower amounts than other lenders, but also I have to charge more for those loans to offset my risk. As a lender, my job is risk mitigation. My job isn't making loans, right? Now, a lot of the times, part of my job is to, yes, we obviously have to send the money out there and put it to work. But I would rather tell my investors, hey, look, no deal this month. We don't need to put the money out there rather than just run money out there on a bad deal. And that's where you, as the borrower, as the flipper, even if it's your first time flipping houses, I want you to understand that there are so many potentials, so many ways for potential where you can go out here and make this happen. And I know what you're probably thinking, Lee, that sounds great, but I don't even have the $31,000. Well, you know what? Let me just help you out with something. That 31,000 is pretty easy to get, right? You've got a couple different ways to do this. You can source the money through a capital partner, right? So let's say that you're going to go up to somebody and you're going to give them out of your profit a certain amount for that money. Now, granted, this runs your margins a little bit more thin than you might want it to be. But if you don't have any money, you don't have too much of a choice. You go out there, you make it happen, you get the money and you hold on to it, and then you roll it to the next deal. And now you've got more money, more skin in the game. Then eventually you're making your own down payments. Then eventually you can go to the point to where you're doing multiple deals at once. And by the way, don't sit there and think that this is going to happen overnight. It doesn't. But it starts with one deal. And then you'd be surprised where the next deal comes from. And then the next deal. So let me know that I'm not out here talking to myself, and I'll queue up the next example of what we're going to talk about as far as getting another example on this board. Any questions, comments so far? Let's see, gross profit, utilities, taxes, property. Hey, Glenn, I appreciate it, man. Let's see. Like I said, I really didn't get all this together in time, so I apologize. All right. Now, if you thought that that was just one that was planned, let's jump into another one. As a matter of fact, hell, throw one at me. Just give me a property. Come up with one of your own mind, and let's run that scenario if you want. But I need you to look at this and then make sure that you come around with a similar scope, right? So give me an ARV, 70% of the gross profit in the rehab. The rest of it, I'll figure out. But you come up with those numbers, and then I'll show you how we can make these things work. So right here, we're looking at a $300,000 ARV. Again, if it was turnkey, your profit is 90,000. That's what your goal is to make, less your holding costs. So then we go through. There's your gross profit. There's your rehab of 100,000. Your final offer on this property is going to be $110,000. Your loan request is going to be for 210 because you're requesting not only the purchase but also the renovation. And yes, I do that. I'll do up to 80% of the purchase price for first-time borrowers, and I'll do up to 100% of the rehab cost. So that being said, I'll fund all of that, and you only need to bring 20% down for your loan. Well, let's go from here. Now, I think I did mess this up in my rush to getting this together. So we're looking at where is our purchase price. So our final offer is 110. So our down payment actually is only going to be 22,000. Right? Because again, I'm doing up to 100% of the rehab. So I had to catch myself there. All right. So now you're looking at right here, your total loan request, 210. There's your points, there's your down payment, there's your fees, and your interest payments on that are going to be $200 or $2,100 a month. Again, 12% interest. If you look at it like this, I wish my calculator would get shared on the screen. So what you do is you take your loan request, multiply that out at 12%, which is going to be 25.2. Then you divide that by 12 because there's 12 months in the year. So that takes you to $2,100 a month. I apologize. Sometimes I get ahead on the math just because when you're used to it, you're just used to it. So let's see what this actually shakes out to be. There's $90,000 as the carrot at the end of this stick. So I really want you to make that $90,000 and as much of that as possible. So let's see what we're going to be spending. If we did a utilities on this house, let's say that that's probably going to be comparable. 425. Let's call this one 600 a month. Taxes on this property, let's just say it's going to be 210. Property insurance, probably 200. That's probably on the high side, but still, again, I want you to understand that we're going to allocate for all this cost. So anything that you save, anything that you come under on that, that's good. That's money back in your pocket. Let's see, your cost of money, 2,100 times 6. So that's going to be 12,600. Yep. All right. So 12.6. And your monthly cost of that money is going to be 2,100. So your gross profit again was $90,000 on this. Your realtor fees, let's just say, you know what? We'll go ahead and bank it at the full 6 again. Your closing costs on this, they're probably going to ask for anywhere from 10 to 12. Call it 12,000. Don't want you to be upset if they ask for, for less. You'll be happy about that. Miscellaneous, let's block another 5,000 off, just in case something came up. They need a new HVAC or some kind of replacement or a credit to keep it going. and then the cost of your money on a 6-month flip. Oof, I tell you, that's looking like a lot of money coming out of there, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're only netting $42,400. $42,000 for 6 months of work, of not having to swing a hammer. Ain't that frustrating? I mean, I don't know about you, but it just really pisses me off just to only make $42,000. So, yeah, it's a horrible state of the world, ain't it? Oh, anyway, no, you're not upset about making $42,000. Let's see what you're going to be spending here, right? So, your cash on cash return, that's our next step. Well, if we go back up here, we have our down payment, points, fees. That's $12,600. Is wait, that's not correct. So that's 30,400, $31,400. All right, here we go, baby. Let's roll it up. So you netted $42,400. You invested $31,400. You see what I'm seeing? Your cash on cash return was 135%. No, not that much. Just 135. Yeah. So interest is paid every month. Now there are times when I've done what's called cross collateralization plays, or if the equity has been in there and they are a strong borrower that they've done a number of loans with me, then sometimes I will escrow those payments, or I'll prepay their interest payments for them so that they don't have to worry about that. Right. Now, generally, you've got to have some really heavy collateral because we're going to push that loan amount up to offset that. So a lot of it still has to be in guidelines, so to speak. Could anybody handle making 135% return on your money in 6 months? Yeah. Okay. And you do see the power of this, right? It's because you leveraged my capital, my network's capital to make it happen, or any hard money, private money lender. You can still make this happen. Let's run one more scenario. And if people don't have any questions, then I'm going to go ahead and get out of here for the night. I'm not going to sit here and belabor the point if people just all understand it or don't want to, engage. Again, 250,000. We're going to run this scenario. Let me get to where you can make sure to see this. 250, there's your 70% of ARV. Your gross profit, 75,000. Your rehab, 75,000. Your final offer, there we go. Your loan request is going to be a total of 175. Your down payment, again, that's going to be 20,000. Let me correct that because 20% down. And sometimes I'll go 90%, and I do have some people that we work with that they've got a great track record that they actually get 100% financing. Now, that 100% financing is subject to higher interest rates, tougher guidelines, tougher underwriting, right? So you've got to understand that just because you've done some deals, that you still have to bring the right deals to me to underwrite to make sure that it makes sense. Because again, remember a lender's job, risk mitigation, right? Not elimination. We understand that any kind of investment carries an inherent risk. What we want to make sure that we do is that we mitigate as much of it as possible. So let's go back into this gross profit breakdown. Just want to clean up some of this spacing. There's your 75,000. Your utilities on a 250, let's call it 500 a month. Your taxes, let's call that 250 a month. I don't know. I'm just making some of the numbers up at this point as we go. Property insurance, let's just call it another 200 a month. We want to do a nice replacement policy. Let's see. Your loan request is going to be the 175. So, all right, we're just going to put that there for now. Subject to errors, no omissions. Okay, it means that maybe my math isn't math, and I don't have my stuff all in full power right now. So we're just going to say that that's your loan. I just want to make sure. So there's your total loan request. Yeah. All right. 155. I'm sorry. See, that's where it is. That's your monthly payment. So your total monthly cost comes out to 2,500. Make sure I'm doing that right. Yep, 2,500 a month. So there's your gross profit, 75,000, and we did this at 250. So let's call that 6% again. 6, 12, 9. So we're looking at 15,000 in realtor fees. Closing costs, 9,000. Miscellaneous, call it another 5,000. You always want to have that post-inspection buffer, right? And I just tell people that otherwise that cuts into your profit. Now, we'll talk about this other part in just a second. But I can tell that there's probably going to be somebody watching this replay that might say, well, you're going to get too conservative. You're going to cut yourself out of a deal. I would rather be too conservative than not conservative enough and cost my family, my friends, my network, my people money, right? So let's see. We had the cost of money at 12, or I'm sorry, at 6 months. That's 15,000. Let's see what we're working with here. $31,000 profit. Now, how much did we have? We had the, call it 28,000. That's going to be your cash on cash return. Look at that. You're going to be over 100% return on your money again because you applied leverage. Now, it wouldn't quite be as sexy if you just used your own money, but still, that return percentage is incredible. Now, let me go ahead and we will turn that off for now. And as I get ready to wind it down, because again, I'm not just going to, stay on here and belabor the point. I wanted to run through a few examples so that you could see what would it look like. Just I'm sure over the years, if you've been connected with me at any length of time, you've probably seen me talk about real estate and how it's been so powerful for us. Well, again, I'm going to, continue to belabor the point. Tomorrow in April, that marks our 10th year in real estate investing. 10 years. We started with $6,000. And I say that, not as a bragging point that, hey, guess what? We started here, we ran it up. I say it because I want you to understand that you can do the same thing. You can sit here and tell yourself all the reasons why you couldn't do it. Or I'm praying that there's somebody out there that listens to this that says, you know what? That guy Lee doesn't sound too bright. I think I could do it too. Right? I understand that people have their hesitation on things. But if you're making $40,000, $50,000 a year and you're struggling to get by, let's say that you're doing everything right that you think you can, but yet you're seeing your credit card expenses going up every month just by a little bit, and your savings dwindle just a little bit every month. There was a book that I wanted to write that I haven't gotten around to it yet. I haven't made time. But it's called Spare Change. And I'm going to get around to it one day. Maybe. We'll see. But the ultimate inspiration for that one day, this was back when Catherine and I lived in Shreveport. We were over on Cross Lake. And one day I was leaving to go out and do some showings. It was probably about 10 o'clock in the morning. And as I was leaving that stretch of road, there was a guy in a pickup truck that he was in the median, had the jack under the truck, had the tire gone, but he was sitting in the truck with the hazards on. Tells me a number of things. Number one, had a flat tire. Number two, he didn't have a spare because the tire was gone. So that means that he might have been on his way to work. He had to call somebody to come over there, get the tire because he didn't even have a spare. Now he's got somebody over there getting the tire changed out, fixed, so they can come back, put it on, and then he gets on the road. At best, he was off that day, and it ended up costing him half a day of his personal time that he'll never get back. At worst, it cost him time at his job, which means that now if he was living paycheck to paycheck, well, his paycheck got a little bit lower if he can't make up those hours. That puts him in even a tougher spot if there happens to be another emergency that comes up. You see, that's one thing that my wife and I would talk about quite often is that type of insecurity in life. It just doesn't do for me. Now, I take a risk in other ways. I take risk with real estate, and I would encourage anybody to go out there and weigh the risk for yourself. For me personally, it's more risk to trust that an employer would keep me around for 20 years because I know how horrible of an employee I am, if I'm being honest. So I would challenge you to start thinking a little bit differently. Where can you apply leverage in your life? Can you give up a Saturday morning? Because if you can give up a Saturday morning and you've got $5 in your pocket in a month, if you gave up those Saturday mornings, you could have $1,000. If you want it faster, start with 10, get to 2 in a month. You want it faster, start with 15, get to 3. That being said, I'm not trying to disillusion you and think that this is something that's quite necessarily easy. It's extremely simple. The math that I've used tonight is the math that we've used to make hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not complicated. It does have its frustrations. It does have its trials, its tribulations, but so does having a W-2 job. So I challenge you, whether it be through real estate, through flipping houses, through online store, or any other way of making money outside of your regular source of income. I want you to really think about it. Really get out there, research it, take some action. Flipping houses is extremely simple. I mean, hell, if y'all want, just start throwing some comments on this, and I'll do a webinar probably in the next 2 weeks about flipping houses and what that takes. Because I don't want people to go over here and struggle the way that my family did whenever I was a kid. I want people to go out there and be proud of what they built and put in a buffer of protection against what they've worked for. Because anybody nobody is impervious to emergencies. You know. Anyway, I'm not going to keep belaboring that. Billy, glad that you were able to find some value in those examples. And hope that, as you go to find a flip, we'll do some work. So feel free to give me a call on that. Let's see. It's already been an hour anyway. So what am I doing, right? I'm going to go ahead, get off here and get ready to call it a night. I've got a couple more properties to look at. Yeah. So if you know anybody looking to flip houses, or if you happen to have one under contract that you can't for some reason do yourself and you want to look at JVing or maybe shadow, we're actively buying. So feel free to, yeah. And yes, Glenn in the chat, he's great about being able to find some deals for people. So connect with him on some wholesale stuff. And aside from that, I'm going to call it a night. So I wish you the best. Really, sincerely, get out there. Don't worry about the rates. Look at your profits. Look at your cash on cash return. Learn how to analyze that. And then watch that investment fold forward. So I wish y'all the best. Hope you'll have a great night. Take care.